Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. One item of council reporting out of closed session. The motion is to receive the report.
Someone like to move that? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Kim. Comments, questions? Councillor Thompson?
Just to be clear on the motion, it says to receive the report. Do we not typically also say with regards to the confidential direction?
Mr. Clark?
It is, the motion is correct. It is just to receive the report, and then the direction will come in the AGM.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else? All right. Mr. Clerk, record a vote.
Record vote has been requested for the only item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Kim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Marakis?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
And Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Unanimously, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Kim, second. Councillor Gardner. Mr. Clerk, are we doing this one recorded or just hands?
Come on.
Just hands for the last two, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gardner, Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right. Moving on to our, Mr. Clerk, our special meeting of council, which is for the AGM for the Aurora Economic Development Corporation. It is actually 6:28. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Kim. Comments, questions? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Delegations. Mr. Clerk, no delegations?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Consideration of items requiring discussion. 5.1, Aurora Economic Development Corporation Annual Report. We will be receiving a presentation by the chair, Tim Hamill, Board of Directors, Aurora Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Chair, Mr. Tim Hamill. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening. The floor is yours.
Right. I don't know how much time I've got. I assume about an hour and a half. Is that? Not really.
We'll give you 5 minutes.
That's absolutely perfect. Thank you, and I'd like to submit my report. My written report has been submitted to you as shareholders. And I'm just going to make a few additional comments, if I might. The timeline of our activities, maybe the next slide, please. We were incorporated in December of 2018. The working group were appointed to the board 2019, and we appointed officers May of 2019. I'd just like to acknowledge the directors of the board during the year 2019. Firstly, the mayor and councillors Sandra Humphreys and Michael Thompson. Thank you so much for your support during the year. It took, it's not without its demand and time, but you were always there for us. From the community, I'd like to recognize Vern Cunningham, Mary Lee Harris, our vice chair, Richard Gong, Steve Hinder, May Kanisa, Craig Udale. As well, I'd like to thank the members of staff, particularly that were instrumental in moving us forward. Nick Kazakov has been there for us day in and day out. David Waters, and of course Doug Nadorsny. I just realized actually that Doug is our president and CEO of our corporation. So of course he's responsible for all the good stuff and all the bad stuff we do. Thank you so much to all the directors for your time and effort. The strategic plan was our focus for last year. That's on the next slide, please. That was, and I think you will recall this. I won't reread the slides, but most of 2019 was taken up by community involvement in the process of developing the plan and developing the plan itself from that input and having it submitted to council. And you approved the plan in 2019 on July 23rd. Could I have the next slide, please? Now, I'm sure you can read this and we can go through it in detail, but I'd like to point out a significant thing, and that's our mission. The mission was to build a diversified economy for the future. And clearly, Aurora has a diversified economy because it faced significant impacts of COVID this year and did reasonably well in that. And more diversification of our economy in the future will only help us to cushion ourselves against any downturn in the future. Could I have the next slide, please? Since 2019, of course, COVID-19 has hit. We all know the impacts of that. And part of our role as a board is to assess in our subcommittees exactly what the risks and the rewards, the opportunities coming out of the change of behaviors in all the economic sectors. Originally, we had prioritized 42 action items from our strategic plan. We identified 10 for immediate action. And we formed 3 subcommittees. The first being the target sector analysis, chaired by Mary Lee Harris. That committee is presently active. We had to put all of the committees on hold during the COVID period, to the frustration of everyone involved, because they're certainly anxious to get something done here. It's important that we do the target sector analysis, but it's turned out to be beneficial that wasn't done ahead of COVID, because obviously COVID has affected the way the different business sectors are going to be carried on going forward. It's either accelerated changes that were already there, or it's created opportunities for corporations to manage themselves differently in the future. The second subcommittee is centering on the downtown business mix strategy, chaired by Steve Hinder. It's important that we look at this opportunity for the community. We have an extremely highly educated, high income population relative to the rest of the GTA, and they are looking for opportunities to spend their disposable income, and we would like that to happen within the community. Hence, Explore Aurora, but addressing the optimum business mix of the strategy for our strategy for downtown is going to enhance keeping those dollars in the community. The third area of focus is what we call the C-suite residents. While we have a very high proportion of individuals with secondary education that are doing very well in their different industry categories, unfortunately, the majority of those people are working outside the community. This is a real opportunity for us to try to access those individuals and convince them that they ought to be moving their organization or part of their organization or making new startup investments in this community based on not only how desirable our workforce is, but that the changes that are coming forth in areas like, for example, the downtown. As you know, the board recently recruited 2 new directors to fill the 2 vacancies on the board. We were really heartened to see that we had a tremendous response of applications to these 2 positions. And the qualifications of the individuals applying were just outstanding. And it's given us not only 2 excellent candidates to push forward our subcommittee work, but given us a roster of individuals that will be accessible to help us in the future. We have a very gifted community. I'd like to thank council for their support during the year and during the last year of 2019, which I guess this is the annual meeting of, but right up to date. You've always been there to support us, and it's really appreciated by the board. I don't know if there are any questions of myself.
Thanks, Tim. What I was going to do is ask council to, if someone would like to move to receive and move the recommendations, and then we can ask questions of you and of the actual report itself as well. So would someone like to do that? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gardner. So any comments or questions to the chair of the board or to the report? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor, to Tim for your presentation and outlining your goals. I'm pretty familiar with it. Looks like you guys are on your way to forge forward with your committees, and I know that you've worked hard to really segregate these special buckets per se. And I understand you have some subcommittees that are also going to partake in this. And I was wondering how many, like you're in a subcommittee under each. I'm gathering each of these buckets to target downtown C-suite. Are you planning on having a couple people that you're going to recruit per bucket, or is it just a subcommittee that's going to oversee all 3?
Tim?
The subcommittee makeup will be approximately 3 directors per subcommittee. We're also looking to possibly bring on just support from the community if needed to back up the directors on those subcommittees only. So additional support, but we will have at least 3 directors per subcommittee. Right now, the directors have to sit on at least 2 subcommittees, and in some cases 3. And the workload is just a little bit intense.
Councillor?
Great. Are you planning on having any within these committees, like having little open houses to kind of attract a network within the subcommittees to try and branch out? I'm just curious as to maybe the process. And
yeah, as each subcommittee goes down the path in developing its project, it will be reaching out to the community separate of the board for input. How it gets that is going to be up to the committee, but the committees are very anxious to do that. We don't want to make any decisions or any recommendations of council in a vacuum. So the more input we can get, the better.
That's
Counselor?
good to hear. That's really good to hear. Thanks, Tim.
Counselor Thompson?
Thank you, Tim, for your presentation. You're always such a humble person. You were thanking all the board members and didn't thank yourself. So certainly, for my part, I certainly enjoyed working with the board and yourself. Every member of that board has tremendous passion and enthusiasm and is really trying to provide and complement one another to help move forward Aurora and the strategic plan you put together. So I certainly want to thank you for all that. And while I was sorry to step down, I look forward to seeing more and more great things from the committee as we go forward. And I appreciate you touching upon in your presentation the recruitment process as well as the selection process for the 2 new board members. I think that at the end of the day, it's important that the board chooses those candidates. I know you go through a rigorous process and there was much debate at the committee meeting for finding the right fit. And I'm certainly very supportive and look forward to seeing more good things in the future. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Counselor Gardner?
Thank you. Thank you, of course, to you and to all the board members. You did mention that this was a lot of work, perhaps more work than you expected.
Well, I
So-
didn't have gray hair when I started. Let me put that.
Right. Well, okay. I'll remember that. So you're hoping that the subcommittees will decrease your workload.
Tim?
The reality is that it's going to allow our board members to concentrate more fully on one subject. So
Okay.
it's not so much that the board members are concerned about workload overall. They're concerned about getting too much, they're dissipated in terms of concentration. They want to concentrate, they want to go for it, and they want to produce a result.
Sounds good to me. With respect to the, excuse me, are the subcommittees going to be keeping minutes and reporting to the board? Will we be able to see that information?
Tim?
Yeah. The subcommittees are really just getting up and running. But yes, I'm encouraging them to have minutes. They will definitely they report to the board monthly, and we'll be adding more formality into that process. But I want to keep the subcommittees as fluid as I can, because the reality is that's where the innovation and the work's going to get done.
Mhm.
Counselor?
And thank you. I mean, I have had experience being on subcommittees, and sometimes I won't say we got a little carried away, but maybe we got a little too informal. So you'll have to find that mix.
Right. Good point.
Counselor?
Oh, I'm done.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Counselor Humphries?
Technical difficulties. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again, Tim, for all your hard work. As Councillor Thompson mentioned earlier, you're a very humble individual. You keep a tight ship. You keep us running forward, and that's not easy. We have some very powerful, strong individuals on the board, and you do keep us focused. Them focused. I'm just a support individual, but I'm really excited about the next several months ahead. I think you've got a great plan in place. I really do appreciate the diversity in the individuals through the selection process, and wonderful thoughts around succession planning. And you mentioned it, such a talented community, very difficult to try to pick. It was not easy for this committee, for sure, this board, I should say. So I just want to thank you again. And I think there's going to be a lot of great things ahead from the board. I'm looking forward to to being part of it and to supporting it and to seeing all the good things come forward. That's all. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Thompson, second time.
I'd be remiss if I didn't want to single out Nick and all the work he's done. He's our economic development officer for the town. He certainly supports this committee in addition to his normal duties for the town. And just wanted to acknowledge him and thank him for his constant contribution as well. Well done, Nick.
I had the opportunity, very quickly to mention Nick, but I'll tell you that this group could not function without him. This literally couldn't function without him.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. Tim, thank you very much for coming. And obviously, I mean, the work that the board does, I'm looking forward to seeing how we move forward, especially with the 2 new members. It's going to be an exciting time, lots going on in the town from an economic development standpoint. And while we are in a pandemic, I think our board has been working tremendously to make sure that our businesses are able to stay afloat, and how do we thrive as we come out of this. So kudos to you and the board for all the work that you guys are doing. And I'm like I said, I'm looking forward to the future growth of our economic development in our town. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
So Council, Mr. Clerk, we have to actually insert those 2 names, do we not?
Yes, please.
So on number 4, where it says the council appoint the following two individuals to the Aurora Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors for a term of 3 years. The 2 names are Michael Hardman and Ty Pham. So that I will ask for a recorded vote.
Certainly. Through you, Mr. Mayor, recorded vote has been requested for the only item of the special council meeting, the AGM for the Aurora Economic Development Corporation. Councillor Gardner,
Yes.
Mayor Marakis,
Yes.
Councillor Kim,
Yes.
Councillor Gallo,
No.
Councillor Humphreys,
Yes.
Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
and Councillor Gilliland.
Can you,
Councillor Gilliland?
Sorry, I said yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gardner, second. Councillor Humphreys. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Kim, Councillor Gardner, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Council, see you in 11 minutes for general committee.
Bye, Tim.